Thank you, Mr. President. Yes, there is. Members of council, Madam Clerk, two messages. I'll let Connie take care of the second message. Regardless of what City Council's actions are tonight, I'm continuing my practice of looking at every viable option for this financial situation. I had mentioned a collection agency at a previous finance meeting, and I'm putting out a request for proposal for that service. However, don't be misled by statements previously made by some that we can use bad debt in any fashion to balance a budget or offset the deficit. As opposed, I'm also opposed to auditing businesses that pay their B&O taxes. Also, I've been working on different staffing issues with the fire department
that can
keep the nationally acceptable standard of staffing while possibly reducing some personnel. We've looked at that before. We'll continue looking at staffing and the locations that we staff them at, and I think we can come up with a viable solution that could reduce some costs. Last week we had to take on the United States Senate on an issue that would have placed yet another unfunded mandate on many municipalities, including Parkersburg, while again many levels of government, including county governments who receive the lion's shares of our tax money, got a free pass. I'm actually very surprised that it failed, because it was another easy opportunity for the state and federal government to place a financial obligation on a city and then let the city officials explain to their citizens why we need to increase fees, and at the same time receive all the criticism, all the blame, all the humiliation by the local media, and have our employees publicly attacked. Curiously, I didn't see any help from any of these groups for better government stepping up to the plate on this issue. No one, including the Tea Party, has been there when the state legislature decided that all cities our size must have a recycling center, and told us to find a way of paying for it without their help. No one was there to protest when the legislature decided to force cities to provide cost of living increases in pensions, provide health care benefits for anybody who retires, and told us to find a way to fund that without their help. No one has stepped up, including the Tea Party or any other better government group, when the Government Accounting Standards Bureau decided that Parkersburg needs to pay an additional $2.5 million a year, each and every year, to shore up insurance costs for retired public employees. No one was there when the State Infrastructure Council decided that all cities must raise their water rates to $35 base, otherwise they would not receive low-interest government loans for water improvement. None of these groups were there to protest the Department of Environmental Protection when they mandated that we develop a plan to control rainwater going to the river with a price tag of nearly $200 million without any financial assistance. And the reason these groups aren't around is because it is easier to blame the messenger. It takes little energy, little intelligence, and a little credibility to take on the root of a problem. In 2007, the state legislature declared in Senate Bill 747 dealing with home rule, and these are quotes: "The future of economic progress for the state of West Virginia is directly related to the success of its municipalities, and that stronger municipalities will make for a stronger West Virginia. That municipalities face numerous challenges managing their budgets and delivering services mandated by the federal and state government. That municipalities are restricted by state statute, policies, rules, and responsibilities that prevent them from carrying out their duties and responsibilities in a cost-effective and efficient and timely manner. That authorizing municipalities to exercise broad-based home rule may improve urban and state development." After that declaration by the legislature, they then undermined home rule by placing a sunset clause on the legislation in 2013, which will undo home rule. West Virginia is only one of 2 states in the entire country without home rule, and this is the hypocrisy of our democracy. None of the better government groups or the news media have the energy to take on the legislature, so cities do not have to worry about these ridiculous fees like user fees and police fees and fire fees. This made me think of the hypocrisy that we've been faced with over the recent financial situation caused mostly by the national recession that is beyond our control. The examples are not just a few, but several. The very people who have decided to turn against government are the very ones who turn to government for every type of service or assistance that has been provided to them. I was riding in the Christmas parade on Saturday, which could not exist without the city government providing the street department to develop and to block off the parade route, have police officers at every intersection directing traffic, along with firefighters in some occasions on overtime, and the street cleaning crew to clean up the 19 blocks of discarded candy and trash. As I'm going down the street, I'm throwing candy to children and grandchildren of the members of the supporters of the local Tea Party. It made me think of all the demands placed on the city by the very people who demand smaller government. I think of a friend of mine that's on the board of the Veterans Museum, who no longer supports the city, who was always first in line requesting money when the Veterans Museum was in trouble. We gave several thousands of dollars to that Veterans Museum because I support it as well. But we also developed a Veterans Memorial in the city park. The city probably put $10,000 or $15,000 in building that, purchased a lot of bricks so that the Veterans Museum could sell those same bricks that we'd already purchased for $50 a piece to veterans, and which brought them from the brink of bankruptcy. And of course, now that individual has turned his back on the city. Tea Party supporters wanted to hold a large rally in downtown Parkersburg at Bicentennial Park this last fall for David McKinley, John Racy, and other candidates. They turned to the city for help. They needed a stage, a sound system. They needed police protection because they were expecting a large crowd, and they wanted the police there to protect them. All this was at the expense of city government and the taxpayers. I saw a sign on a business recently encouraging people to attend a recall meeting last night, whose owner previously commended the police department for their quick response in catching the person breaking into his business. Actually, the Tea Party was able last night to have their meeting to recall mayor and council, thanks to the street cleaning and snow removal crews who have been out since 1 o'clock that morning at a considerable cost to the city, salting streets and cleaning streets. This, again, is the hypocrisy of our democracy. I see 3 people who have been defeated for city council helping lead the charge against the city. I see 2 former members of council who successfully oversaw the biggest decline in business and industry in the 1980s in Parkersburg and into the 1990s. Now they're back at work. They are the reason Parkersburg nearly became a ghost town in the 1980s. One of the biggest critics of the city comes each year asking for thousands of dollars to hold an event because the revenues have decreased due to the recession. We are told the event, which helps promote their business, couldn't possibly happen without our funds and staffing abilities, and they are correct. So we step up to the plate, and then when the money becomes tight, we are then called poor stewards of public spending. That, again, is the hypocrisy of our democracy. The irony is, if we didn't help with that event, we would then be criticized for not caring about the community. I even hear local government officials who align themselves with the local Tea Party, whose entire family eats out of the government trough and are provided full health coverage at the same time. You know, there's an old saying, it's as old as the scriptures, which states that everyone wants to go to heaven, but nobody wants to die. Nobody ever wants to foot the bill for the things they want. City employees are public servants and not public slaves. Some of the things that have been said about them are disgraceful. When I ran for office, I promised economic development in Parkersburg, which included the finishing of Riverfront Park, the building of the Blue Cross building, things such as the Armory Event Center, downtown campus of WVUP, and redevelopment of downtown and other areas. Most of these things are either underway or are done. I never promised lower taxes or any of the other ridiculous promises that politicians make when they're running for office. As for the Tea Party and the recall, let me be clear. If they were successful, the recall would coincide perfectly with my plan to never be mayor of a city that stagnates or goes backwards. I'm tired of the vocal minority running the city, especially those who the voters have already defeated. That being said, I'm asking City Council tonight to put this issue on a ballot in a special election to see if the silent majority wants less police, fire, other personnel, and a reduction in service. Thank you. Connie, if you will take care of the second message, I would appreciate that.